Chat. Chat, if you're with me. If you're with me on this lovely Friday, it is May 24th, 2024, 10:09 a.m. my local time, chat. Let me tell you what. I got this good vibes background music going on. I got everything is set up. Trying to look sharp for you today. Trying to have a great show. Because these special event GMAE shows here on the official Sandbox Game channel are here to help you create great games for the Impact Game Jam. And I turn it all on. And I'm looking at everything. And it's all going great. Except the second I press the play button, all of my audio levels go to 0. I can still hear it all. I actually, I can hear my mic working as I have it go reverb through my headset. I can hear the music, the good vibes music is playing, but none of it is going out to you. So of course, we're doing sign language. We're trying to convey this to you, and I appreciate my help here in the chat. I believe this is PandaPops. This may be V. I'm not sure. But thank you for typing out in the chat that Joe had some sound difficulties. And I'll just turn it off and back on again. You know what I mean? So we're going to pretend like the last 8 minutes never happened. It is Panda. Awesome. Welcome, Panda. Thank you for being my producer in the chair a little bit there. Appreciate you. In chat, the Impact Game Jam playtests are starting now. For the next about hour and 50 minutes, we're going to be playtesting the games that you created inside the Sandbox Game Maker in preparation for submission into that Impact Game Jam. If you are submitting for the Impact Game Jam, you may be eligible for rewards for your creation in that Game Jam. You'll get one part of 60,000 sand if you reach in the top 10 or the honorable mentions group, and land NFTs, Catalyst packs for creators to be able to publish and to create inside the VoxEdit asset creation software and publish to the map at sandbox.game. These rewards available for creation if you registered starting April 24th, and this ends in about 4 days. On May 28th, your submissions must be in. So, we've had a few people who've made requests, either via the chat or via a form that you may have received in an email. So check your emails that you used to register for sandbox.game if you're interested in upcoming Game Jam events, or you can check the events page at sandbox.game. Learn more and register that way. We've got some good submissions today, and I'm going to start pulling those up here on the other screen as we get people into the chat. So once again, welcome. Today, I know I got a submission request from Byverse Art on a live stream earlier this week, and I'm going to go ahead and check my form that we just got set up for this particular game jam to see who the others are that are interested in play today. And it looks like I've got another game that we'll try to get to this one, because we try to take them in the order that they submit. And if for some reason we can't complete the playtest on the second game, then we will be able to playtest this again on Monday over on the Council Tech channel, if that's not too late to submit, and that is not too late. So I will test it on Monday at the Council Tech over on twitch.tv for Black Rabbit Maze, if we don't have time to get to it here today, but I believe we will. We'll see what happens. Usually a playtest takes about an hour. So with about an hour and 45 left here, I'm going to try to pull up the game from Byverse Art, and then I will open up. In order to playtest these games, chat, if you're a new developer and you've never done this before, the process here on the GMAE show should be that you are not complete with your game. Or maybe you're complete, but you're not sure if people are going to like it. And so you submit it in here to the show. and I'll play test it here and just give you feedback, and I'll try to play these games or experiences as though I'm 5 years old, right? I want to play them like I've never played a game before, just kind of run straight into it, and I'm going to just speak out loud sort of what's happening. And the advantage to getting your game play tested on GMAE show is that you get to see how a person would play if it's not you, the developer. And what happens often when we as developers make games is that we go in with assumptions because, of course, we know how our games are going to work, how our NPCs interact. And as developers, sometimes that just means we want to make sure they do the one thing that we thought they were going to do. But players will often do things where you just you sort of wonder, why did they not see that your NPC was over here on the left side or something like that. And so we'll talk about all the fundamentals of game design on this show, all the way from the way that you've molded the world or terraformed it, all the way up to the minutia of, I noticed this piece of grass has collision on. And we'll go through all the details to do so. But if you want your game play tested, one of the steps that you'll need to follow here is to publish it into the gallery. So if you're making something inside the Game Maker, once you've made it public, then you can have other people play test it, whether it be me here on this show, or maybe it's a friend of yours because you just want to say, maybe, if you don't want to tell everybody about it or whatever, maybe you publish it and just say, hey, go find it here. It's got such a name, right? And people will be able to play it there. So let me get the name once again. Byverson sent this to me. Ylands Test was the name of their experience. I see it right here. So this is YTSE Game Jam is the user, but the important thing when you submit these is to just give the clear what is the name of the thing. And for clarity for you folks back on the watching live, the order in which these arrive on this screen is the order in which they were created. So if something that you made just a second ago was to be immediately published, it should come up here sort of first. But if you've been working on this since the beginning of the Game Jam opening, maybe it's on page 4 or 5 or whatever, right? It really depends. But we'll open up Ylands Test by Byverson, and it's funny, I just said all of that, and I didn't even have you on the main screen, chat. So now we're on the main screen, and we're loading up here. We're getting it all sorted. Let me have a look. This is so wild, chat. This is so wild. I'm looking at the stream, right? I'm looking at this, and I'm going to go check it out on Twitch TV real quick. I don't think I've ever seen so many technical issues here. Am I living in the past? We'll have a look. Nope, I'm good. I'm good on Twitch. Okay, my bad. The preview screen shows literally the stream from 10 minutes ago. Anyway. Okay, as a result, natural resources decreased and countries came to the point of economic collapse. The single idea, economy, tourism, nature, and people learn to live together in harmony. Okay, so as we're going over the narrative bits, right? I will try to discuss what I see once again as it comes up. So if I make a point to grammar or just generally the way things are written, once again, it's important to understand that I want to make sure that you guys get the highest quality that you possibly can out of a narrative design. And quite honestly, most folks who are designing inside the Sandbox game, where English really just won't be their first language, right? I mean, a lot of people speak it around the world, but and honestly, even right here, I live in the United States, right? In America, most Americans don't speak English very well. That said, when I do make those corrections, it's just with the interest of making sure you have a really high quality product. So I hope that you can understand and not take offense, but I will be pointing those things out as we go, just to help you out throughout. So with a single idea, economy, tourism, nature, and people. So if that is your thought, if the single idea is included as well as economy, tourism, nature, and people, then I would write that. I would say the single idea, economy, tourism, nature, and people, comma, we learn to live together in harmony. So if that is your thought thread, if you want it to be written with a single idea, economy, tourism, and nature, people learn to live together in harmony, that would be another good way to write this. As it is written right here, not perfect, but okay, this experience will simulate, combine the real story. Okay, will simulate and combine the real story of a country that came to the point of extinction in order to earn more income from agriculture and be born again from its ashes. So you've got simulate and combine and be born again. Okay, meet president. All right, so as I'm looking at the right side of the screen here, you can see under the little mini map that the quest objective has now popped up, and it says meet president. So when we design a game, generally speaking, you want the game to give you the quests based off of a narrative beat that happens. So as I'm spawning here in this space, I would probably move the spawn, just for reasons, to be like here. And then right in front of me, have a person that I can talk to. So we can have the backstory pop up, that's cool. But once that has cleared, don't give me the meet the president text right immediately, but maybe have someone here that is experiencing the things we talked about in the backstory, and they're going to ask you to help them. And in that, once they've asked you to help them, then they may say, go speak with the president if your character can pose solutions, right? We need help. We don't, and the character that you speak with shouldn't just say, we need your help, right? It shouldn't be assumed, that character shouldn't assume that you're a genius at fixing this problem. But in that conversation, make your character reply with, I know how to help in these situations of famine or whatever it may be. And then they'll say, oh, thank you. Okay, well, any help is good. We really need anything. And then you get this quest to go speak with the president. Now, when we are here in this space, we can see that there is this UI element at the top of the screen there, yeah? That little target that's moving back and forth. And with that target, we know where to go. However, as we start, the target is now hidden behind the UI elements that are my name up in that corner. So if the targets are going to be hidden, now the UI elements don't really make a ton of sense. So what I would do in this case is, assuming once again that we had a person that we talked to here that gave us this quest, the person should tell us which direction to go to meet the president, and assume that up is north and left is west. So now that text that popped up on the right side that said meet the president should say under it, using the white text, and then highlight with the yellow text inside this subtext of these titles. Meet the president should say, go find the president. They're in the northwest, where the word northwest is highlighted. That's it. So now, if the user didn't pay attention at all to the text that you put out there for the conversation pieces, they at least still know where to go. Because right now it says meet president, and where's the president? The big things that are important that I see on this screen right now: field, rifle, Bombkiss Jr., right? So we clean that up a little bit when we do those couple of things. And it's small stuff, but the small stuff matters a lot. You want to make it really, really easy for the player to understand absolutely everything about where to go. And okay, here's another small stuff thing. You've got a path here that's clear. White line or the dark gray line, light gray, dark gray, whichever one. These are leading lines. But when we're spawned here, we have another path that's sort of coming up this way. But there's a bit of a mess going on in this section. If I'm creating pathing in the ground, just allow for the pathing to be. Like, trust your instinct and keep creating that pathing. Keep the pattern consistent in like, where do we go? So in this case, we're coming up here. We've got a path that sort of leads to the field. There should be like a cross here. And then a path that goes up this way and a path design that goes up this way. All the roads would pretty much be designed the same. Not like super important, but it will help your player to, if they can't see that UI element, if they aren't reading Meet the President, they're at least getting leading lines that push them where they need to go. Arson, welcome over on YouTube. Nice to see you back on Sandbox. Thank you so much. Nice to see you here in the chat. How you doing today? So as we're going, we're thinking about the small stuff when we're making these. On another thought, and it's not super important, but art design and keeping art design consistent with your game design. You mentioned at the very beginning that the people in this experience they're undergoing an economic collapse. So something that you could be thinking about is, how long have they been undergoing this collapse, right? Have they been slowly degrading into an intense level of poverty? If so, maybe they don't have paved roads at all. And it's not important, but it helps world building, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, we could use any type of road paving. We could use any type of leading lines and pathing that we want. But if they've really been experiencing poverty for a very long time, then the paved roads are probably dirt roads now, or it's quite broken down. This fountain is probably not functional at that point. The housing or rooftops are probably not going well. You did a really good job with this effect, and I'm going to give you credit for that, but talk about that in a second. But the tops of these farm stalls or animal stalls, right? They'd be a little less pretty if they are, if they're losing money over time, over a long period of time. If they just suddenly collapse, like overnight, then things might be pretty on the exterior. And then maybe you should have a couple NPCs out here that are experiencing this struggle. People that you don't directly interact with, but when you walk by, they have a pop-up text that's saying something like, I'm hungry, or, things that really start to build up your world a little bit more. And they don't take a ton of time to do that, so it's nice to just add those little bits in. Okay, so we've got a character we can interact with. The president, living in a pretty bougie house. It's a pretty nice house. This may be, of course, the standard, once again, depending on the level of collapse. And for the most part, the president is going to have a nice place regardless of the status of the rest of the country. So, interesting. I like the fact that it's nice here. One security guard. Hello, username. Good job. I'm Marcus Antonius, president of Wylands. Our country could not keep up with the developing world, and the last president dragged us into an economic crisis. Okay? As the new president, we must take serious measures and save our people from poverty. Our country's soil is very fertile, but agriculture and animal husbandry have stopped completely. Okay. Also, tourism is very weak. These sectors should be the economic locomotive of our country. Your task is to conduct research in this area and discover the most effective ways. The most effective ways to what? Right? Your task is to conduct research in this area and discover the most effective ways to boost the economy. It's probably whatever right there. Most effective ways to boost the economy. Your farm is waiting for you below. I will be following the developments. Yes, sir. I will be starting work immediately. So right here you wrote, yes, sir, I'm starting to work immediately. And say, yes, sir, I will start work immediately, or I'll start work immediately. That'll be, it'll read a little bit more normal, I guess, a little bit more natural. Okay, so now we have to find and talk to Bombkus Jr. We do know and understand the pathing. Once again, because the game led us up and to the left, here I'm sort of inclined to go up to find Bombkus Jr. But I know, because we already saw the text, that Bombkus Jr. is down here. The indicator, once again, I'm noticing. Let me go back to the president and see if this is the case when I'm standing at the president. Okay. See, when we use that target indicator here again, this time it's the opposite problem. And forgive me, chat, the little logo is in the way. Let me see if I can move that out of the way a little bit here. Boop. Layers, and we'll turn this off. Did that work? Nope, that just got rid of that. There we go. Okay, so in this case, the Bombkus Jr. prompt that gave us something that leads us to where Bombkus Jr. is once again hidden. So it's down in like that, way down over there, way down in that corner, if you can't see it. Behind the text chat, if someone said hi to their friends. Hi, friends. Yeah, it's down there. So what we want to do is once again make sure that the indicators are clear, easy, and obvious. So as we come back away from the president, you might have this text conversation spawn Bombkus just off screen. Instead of having Bombkus already there, you could have Bombkus be spawned here and have this conversation with Bombkus. And maybe from there, Bombkus says, meet me in my lab, or meet me, over wherever this location is going to be. It does look something like a lab. So you may say, have the conversation, say, meet me in my lab. I need to prepare something really quickly. And, have the character disappear and reappear in the other spot. And then have further conversation. Because it's just going to help the player get to the destination a little bit while that icon or indicator is covered by these other UI elements that you can't avoid. Really. All right. You! Well, how does Bombkus know me? Yes, me. Okay, so this is a bit confusing for me, and it's a small thing, but the person speaking says you. I assume that's me. I say out loud, you! To Bombkus Jr. instead of saying, Dr. Bombkus? And then the text chat here says, yes, me. So it's quite confusing to try to figure out, am I saying yes, me? After I'm saying you to them? Right? So I would fix this a little bit by walking up, and let's change the word you to Dr. Bombkus. And the text that Dr. Bombkus says to me, something generic like, like that sound, And then you just say, hello, and we get a decent introduction. Little version of that mad scientist. Last time I saw you, you were measuring luck. I think you're out of luck and you're here. Okay, so now we're getting further into it. I understand that the player is speaking here. So if that is happening, then on the last page, you might also just do what you did here, which is to have the 3 little dots. Like if the player is speaking to Bombkus here, then that would be, it would be a little bit more proper. Let me just fix this real quick. Here we go. Ian, welcome to the chat. How's it going? All right, Bomkus says, difficult times require impossible solutions. That's why I came here. I'll be your chief advisor and assistant who produces effective solutions. Okay. So we just accused Bomkus of potentially doing some nefarious stuff. And then Bomkus's reaction as a character was literally nothing. They just don't even care. Which, okay. But allow Bomkus to be a little bit more reassuring to you, if that's the case. Or, on the other side, maybe make Bomkus get a little bit offended by this, right? Like, Bomkus is here trying to help save them like you are. Bomkus is not from this area. They are outside help, doing everything that you're doing. So if you can do that, then that might, once again, take this up just a little bit narratively. All right, let's get to work. I have a lot of research to do. Okay. Plant wheat. Wheat. Let's do it. Okay, so in this case, I think you did a good job here. We know where the fields are. We've seen the fields a few times. And we got nice leading lines. There's only one way to go, so we can't do that wrong. We got a nice little arrow here that suggests we do wheat. But the thing that we're missing here is that we haven't, when we loaded this game up, we did not teach the players what the buttons were for the sandbox. So you're going in with the assumption here, because you've played a bunch of sandbox games, right? You've made games in the sandbox. You're going in with the assumption that they know how to do wheat. They know how to walk up to sign, and what does the sign do? How do we make it happen, right? And we know that that's pressing the letter E, but the player at this stage of the game may not know that pressing E makes that happen. So what I would do is modify this arrow a little bit, where the arrow's still there, but right next to it is a letter E, and that together bounces. And that'll, once again, clear it up. Wheat produces 2 food in 1 second. Okay, so when we write this, produces 2 food in 1 seconds, if you want to make it seem like it's generic and you're filling this in and you write the same thing, hypothetically you wrote corn produces 2 food in 2 seconds, then put, either write 1 second here or put the S in parenthesis so that, it's a little bit more like math sensical. And we've planted wheat, but right away, this really doesn't look like wheat. You actually could just put grass there, like a really tall grass would look like wheat. This has very large leaves, which is distinctly not wheat. This could probably pass for like an early tomato plant, or I don't know, like the beginnings of maybe like a banana tree or something, but definitely not wheat looking. Okay, so we've got wheat going, and once again, the indicator is in the corner of our screen. So what I would do is I would plant the wheat here, and then earn first gold, new objective unlocked. That one literally came out of nowhere. I would plant the wheat, and after you've planted the wheat, oh, I see, it's growing food in the top left. So we got a UI element of something happening, and that's why it triggered that quest. But nonetheless, after we planted the wheat, we want to have a text pop up there. Because you did have you as the player, you were able to speak with Dr. Bomkus. Now we've established that the text pop-ups may be you. Pop it up. Have the person talk out loud to themselves and say, oh, that was tough. We got wheat planted. Now, let's go back to Bomkus. Have your character's inner monologue happen on the screen. And then, if the player was missing that exclamation mark that's happening literally behind me, they're missing the exclamation mark that's happening behind me right here, then I think I got out of the way. Nope, I didn't. I literally didn't. I couldn't. The microphone was in the way of it, you know what I mean? If they're missing that, then they can still know, I need to go back to Bomkus. Okay. And now, that said, you don't actually have to go to Bombkus. I'm wrong, because I didn't turn around yet, and the icon was over the Bombkus text. So in this case, this is actually in the messages text. And this is lore. The president allowed wild animal hunting sports to develop tourism and make wildlife contribute more to the economy. Certain species will be able to be hunted in accordance with the rules in the new law. Take a rifle and hunt some animals. Use the right mouse button to shoot. Okay, so we had something separate come up, which is hunting when I'm holding this rifle. And, okay, as it goes, that's a cool... It's nice that you've added the ranged effect. But when I'm looking at this thing here, and, you know, once again, I hope you don't take any offense to this, but I want to make sure that it's clear. That looks like a sword, not a gun. It's got a hilt, it's got a handle. The front of it looks a little bit like maybe a Halo-style battle rifle, right? But overall, I don't see this as a rifle. And, you know, maybe a bow would be more interesting. I don't know why that's happening in my brain here, but whatever. A rifle would work fine. If it's named rifle, though, it definitely should look like one, because I feel like this definitely, once again, I think it looks like a sword a little bit. And I'm cool with the idea, I guess, that we're just kind of carrying it around here and it's floating. But you can adjust the anchor point in VoxEdit so that instead of it floating way in front of the character, it sort of floats like it touches the character. It's typically, of course, when we hold a firearm, you're going to hold it like up against your shoulder, right? And you're firmly sort of pressing it into yourself. So if a person had it like literally floating way out there, when they pulled the trigger on that, there's action to the gun, like the, you know, the explosion that happens inside of it. All that force comes back, and that will probably break your jaw, right, if you're shooting it. And it's a small thing, it's stupid, and whatever. Like, mechanically, it's not really going to change anything, but I'm thinking about that when I'm thinking about art design. It's like, how does it actually work? And that minutia is what takes you from the, you know, second place to first place, if, you know, all of that goes through. So change the anchor point on this, change it so that it looks more like a rifle, and test it inside the game maker in your game to make sure that it lines up more with the character directly. So there's a reminder here from Nightbot Chat. If you're watching live, it says, take part in our Clipper raffle. Clip great moments in our streams and be eligible for a chance to win sand or NFTs. So don't forget to do that if you're interested in a little freebie. If you see something fun or interesting here on this show or on the other shows here at the Sandbox channel, you can, you know, win some sand cryptocurrency or some NFTs just from participation. Okay, so now I've got some food. You can see, go to the vendor and sell the food. I see this arrow. I'm liking the proximity base pop-up. That's interesting to me. I would probably change the proximity base. This is, I don't know, like visually it looks really, really good, but for some reason, the way that it pops in, I feel like it's backwards. I don't know if, you know, maybe I'm just weird. Maybe it's one text block and it just appears based on that proximity. But I would say I want to see press 1 to sell 100 food first. All right, so I'm going to press 1. We're here. Domestic animals has now been unlocked for having sold some food. Go to the farm and buy a chicken. I can absolutely do that because I have some gold. And now there's a little flow issue, I think, here. On the one hand, I've got the hunting rifle and I want to go hunting to earn some extra food. However, that arrow said stop here, right? And now I just got the quest and I got the little jingle that happened in my ear for completion. Good job on that. Go to the farm and buy chicken. So it compels me as a player to want to turn around and go back to do that. So what I would probably do here is change this order of operations. I grow some food. I'm going to revisit this now because we know we don't talk to Bombkus. So I grow some food. I pop up. There's a pop-up where the player is talking and say, oh man, yes, I grew some food. Woo, it was tiring. It was a lot of work. Now that it's grown, or now that it's growing, where can I sell it? And then prompt the quest right there for go sell it at the vendor. Because your gold is accumulating, or your food is accumulating fast enough that we can go sell it to the vendor. We understand the economic levers that are happening in this country now. We've got food being produced, sell it to vendor. Vendor, press 1 to sell 100 food. Great, we got some gold. Now the game's gonna trigger because we got some gold. Go buy some chickens to generate more money. And we can do all of these things. Now we've got wheat growing, and we're gonna presumably get chicken. Some husbandry is happening. And from there, after that, if there's not another new economic process that's going, we should probably have it so that we talk to either Bombkus or the president, and they say, thank you for getting things started again. We're getting some good ideas. Let's continue to find new ways to make money. And then we have the rifle quest pop in. The explanation of this is an alternative way of getting income. And when you talk about the rifle quest and you talk about the wild game hunting, highlight very specific. One of the focuses of the Impact Game Jam is about sustainability. And most often, I don't believe that people look at hunting wild game like, lions or elephants or whatever as sustainable hunting. And I'm not sure, what we're going to go hunting, but these are the first things that come to my mind. When you talk about hunting wild game, I don't really think about hunting deer necessarily, I guess. For some reason. Maybe it's because the way that the Jeep is designed here is more like, African wild game in my brain. So what I would do there is when you're in the conversation, or you're in that little notification menu over here about wild game, I would highlight specifically how the money that's used, or the money that's spent by tourists to hunt the wild game, is used for breeding the same wild game and releasing them into the wild, right? Breeding them in captivity and releasing them into the wild. That way, once again, you focus on the sustainability and how these traditional things can shift from pure consumerism to a sustainable and strong economy. So add that in for sure when we get to the hunting. But let's do the chickens part, because I want to play this as though the order were a little bit more of a natural flow. Okay, so chicken produces 3 food in 1 second, and I can buy chickens for 10 gold. Great. So I bought some chickens. Buy turkey. Great. I have more gold, so I can do that. Turkey is 5 gold, or 5 food in 1 second. I can exit. I'm not sure that you have to write free there. I guess it's fine. So I can exit, or I can buy it for 100 gold. I'm going to test this. I don't think it's going to work. Buy for 100 gold. It didn't work because I didn't have 100 gold. So that's good. Right. I've got food. I need money. Got to go back to the vendor. So let's pretend for a second that we're playing this once again like we're 5 years old. Good morning, afternoon, evening, Pickaxe Master. How you doing today? Welcome to the show. So I've got, if we pretend like we're 5 years old here, the chicken is in there, the wheat is in there, they're doing their thing, they're making the number go up. That's cool. The first thing that comes to mind is that these processes are happening automatically, which is fine. But if I'm talking to the president and we're trying to help the president make their country be better and more sustainable, then we should probably have this process educating people who live in the country. So those people that I talked about way earlier, maybe the NPCs that say they are hungry. Yeah. If there's one just like sitting right here, maybe they're sitting on the ground here. They say they're hungry and you start the wheat. Yeah. And you say, I did it. This is tough. Have the NPC move from here to here and start tending to the wheat. Just a basic animation, anything that looks like they're sort of picking at the wheat. Yeah. Just you help them learn how to farm wheat here in the country. And the NPC will stay there and change the text that goes over their head from I'm hungry to any sort of emotive, like an emotive noise or like, that appears like they're working, or they could say like, I'm really getting the hang of this or whatnot, right? So when you do that, now you're building up the world a little bit more. And you're showing that you're not just the savior, right? In this case, you're teaching the people how to make this country more sustainable and renewable over a long period of time. And so the number's going up, right? And the reason why I say all that, I guess, is because the number is going up, and I'm thinking about the number going up. But the chickens have to be tended to in order for food to be produced. And the wheat has to be tended to in order for the food to be produced. So you get sort of a double win there. The one, the people who were hungry and sad are now working and eating, and the excess that they produced can be sold at the market. And with that in mind, over here, the vendor, right, that we're selling the food to, this can show progression in your game as well. When you have the wheat and the wheat gets propped up, over here at the vendor, you can have a person who now pops up here with like a crate of wheat. So you design a crate of wheat in VoxEdit and they're selling it now. You still have to come over here and confirm the sale by pressing 2 to sell 1,000 food or whatever. But the vendor spaces are growing. The economy is beginning. And that's going to be sort of like an achievement hunter's dream. When you talk about if your gamer, if your player is going to enjoy your game, succeeding here results in shown success like a trophy room. And the trophy room is their people doing better. So people who might have been hungry by the vendor, just like people might have been hungry back here by the farms, and now wake up, get up, do a job, and, eat and make some money. All right, so now we got to get turkey. And okay, and the second part, probably the more important part, I guess. Like world building is super important, and development is important, but tutorial is also really important. How do players interact with your experience? So if I did this quickly and I did this well, I had wheat that I produced really fast. I came over here. I had chicken that I produced quickly because I got a little bit of money. I went wheat, marketplace, chicken. I came back here. I couldn't afford, I didn't have the gold because I only sold 100 to be able to get the turkey. So what I would do here is interact with this. And before turkey produces 5 food in 1 second, this sign, the very first time we interact with it, should actually trigger a second sign. So a second interactable should be in front of this that gets destroyed, right? So the first time that we interact with this sign, it should say turkey produces 5 food in 1 second, buy 100 gold. And when I click it, it shouldn't just not work. When I click it, it should say, you don't have 100 gold. Go back to the vendor and sell some more food. And that will prompt the player, if they don't understand or they weren't paying attention to the UI elements, that will prompt the player to know that, okay, yeah, I sold wheat once. I sold, now I'm going to sell wheat and chickens. And we got to keep going back to this person multiple times to sell the food to them. I'm noticing something else happen as I sell to the vendor as well. When I pressed 2 to sell, I did have enough food, but the prompt that says not enough food came up. I had enough food successfully. So you may retest that. Change, when that triggers the check for food, the guy saying how much food you have or something like that, to make sure that that works automatically, I guess, or like correctly, whatever. Okay, so now we've got turkey done. Plant research has popped up on the right, but there was no indicator for a need for improvement on plant research. Buy pigs is here. So we've got turkey. We've got pig as a possibility. This time on the pig, you probably don't have to give them the tutorial for buying it for whatever. Because you've got the arrow here. We're implying we want to get some pig. That's good. Buy camel has unlocked. But once again, the text prompt that's popping in off of the side, where it says buy camel, maybe talk about why we do that, right? So depending on where we are regionally in the world, I know this is a, made up place, but incorporate a culture into how do these people use these items? So if the buy chicken quest came up, it shouldn't just say buy chicken. It should say buy chicken, and the white text under it says chickens help produce eggs, which is, we can use for breakfast, baking. You can use whatever, put some light detailing in that descriptor, because yeah, buy camel is good enough, I guess. But why buy camel? Because quite honestly, like as an American, where camels aren't here, except for, like at a zoo, why camel? Why is camel good for the economy here? How is camel sustainable? Why is camel farmed? Right? And once we know that, if camel is the workhorse of the region, then cool. That's why. But we get a little bit of insight into your world. And we get a little bit of, help narratively for the potential attendant, right? Presumably you've got somebody who's here working the chicken. If you do what we were talking about, you got somebody who's now working the turkey, and the person who's working the turkey, if the prompt for turkey is a good source of meat, they grow quickly, whatever the thing is, right? Then you could have your farmer that's standing here next to the turkey, the new NPC that comes in that has that text bubble when you sort of walk by them. Be like, oh, these feathers are gonna sell great at the market, or whatever the thing is. I could use these feathers for hunting, bow hunting, whatever you like. Interestingly here, I picked up the rifle one time and I just accidentally right-clicked, and the rifle is shooting from forever away, right? So thank you, Byverse. Appreciate it. I hope that this is going to be helpful to you. We got a lot of little notes, but so far you've got some good solid foundations for a game here. And I hope that this helps you over the next couple of days as you finish up this development. And the same thing with the pigs, right? What can pig be used for? There's a lot of things that pig can be used for. So maybe think outside the box about what the NPC would be here with. Maybe the pig fats can be turned into something unexpected, or the leathers, the hide of the pig can be used for something. I don't know exactly. Put a little flavor to it. And then, so now we've got camel here, 80 food in 3 seconds. So it's assumed here that once again that we are eating camel. For me, again, I'm not well versed in camel. They're not around. So is that normal? This is an opportunity to educate me, the uneducated, about how do we use camel to process it. Because once again, I defaulted to thinking they're going to be an assistant in the food production process. But the way that this reads out to me is that we're eating camel. And maybe we are. I'm not sure. But it'd be interesting to see, like, if camel is supposed to be in your world, used like a workhorse, then helps produce, right? Camels help produce 80 food in 3 seconds. Might be a better way to write it. If we're eating camel, leave it exactly like this. But I don't really know. Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, Hodel. How are you? All right, so we've got another corn. Corn produces 4 food in 1 second. We can afford that. We're growing corn. So I guess I'll leave this comment again about the corn here. These are little cacti that we've planted in the cornfield. So corn, like as I said here, these vines would pass more for corn than these little cacti do. So I would look for that as a point to improve. Now I have 10,000 food. We're producing a whole lot of it per second, which is really nice. So I was able to sell 10,000 food and get 2,500 gold. Excuse me. And we've got the quest here that says complete all farming research. So we've got forest soil. All right. Okay. So here's something else that's happening here in my brain. Hope you're having a good stream. Thank you. Yeah, I think so. So far. We got a request from Byverse and Art, who is right now competing in the Turkey event, at the Sandbox Turkey event. So I'm really excited to see that. And this is their experience made for the upcoming Impact Game Jam. So they're going to look at this feedback later at VOD on YouTube or on Twitch.tv. And I'm very excited to see how this turns out over the next couple of days, because they've got a few days to make these edits. Bankoy saying, this cultural aspect is very important. In a game jam, I discovered that cats have 7 lives in Brazil, but 9 lives in other places. So funny. And that's exactly right? We know that the Sandbox is a global platform. And with that, something that's interesting about a game jam is, for the most part, you're just trying to make your game make sense to me as the tester. So when I'm going through these things, they might seem small, but I want this to be clear, obvious, and if I get something out of an experience, like if I can walk away a better person having played your game, for me personally, I'm like, yes, that's the one. That's good stuff. So if I find out about these camels as a result of placing them down here, and I find out something new about pigs and how they are farmed by playing through your experience, then that's just cool. You know what I mean? It's just a little thing that, once again, if this is a fictional place, okay. But when I see these little fun notes, I can take that with me. And that's really cool. I didn't know that about camels. I didn't know this about turkeys. I didn't know that about how corn is processed. Like, what do they use the corn husks for? You know what I mean? When it's all said and done, corn husks are used for actually lots of things. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I know that they are not just thrown away. Like, all the parts of the food are used, or all the parts of the animal are used in farming. So highlighting that in any way could be fun and interesting for your player. Anyway, so back to the research section. I've got the quest that popped up on the right that said farming research. Complete all farming research. And what I probably would do here is to, like, we've got these clearly science-like, and we've got the podiums. 3 kinds of soils or fertilizer variety: forest soil, swamp soil, penguin fertilizer. But we've established thus far that the science is happening sort of here. The research is happening here. So if farming research is happening in this corner, then we might want to establish Bomkus having an assistant. Not just me, but another scientist there. Someone who is, like a scientist with a garden rake, a garden hoe that's literally like working soil in the corner and going, interesting, And you could talk to them about, because all 3 of these things seem to be soil or fertilizer focused, if the scientist is working the soil instead of there just being these little stands, these little podiums, then the first time you speak with the scientist, you can prompt the forest soil research here. And then the second time, you trigger more food efficiency for gold cost. It's all the same triggers, right? But it's happening from an NPC. And with that, you get a little bit more, once again, world building. And once again, it feels like the people of this region are learning something. And the people at the end of the game should be able to sustain this space. And so it shows growth in their people. It shows growth in their economy. And yeah, number go up. We're doing a great job with number go up. Like, this is definitely appealing to the Joe in me that's like, ooh, food number go up fast. Good job. And so far, I haven't hunted or had to hunt at all for food number to go up fast. So the rifle would be like the very, like right now, I haven't even gotten to the rifle mechanics whatsoever. I haven't got to the hunting stuff because the hunting hasn't been important at all. And it would be one of those things where you could come back to this guy maybe at some point after having figured out all the types of farming. And they say, wow, we're really doing well now. Everyone's working on, we're making this, we're making this, we're making this. Everybody's having a good time. And then now we need to attract tourists. And I'm thinking we can help boost tourism through hunting and maybe have the president talk about the sustainability mechanics of hunting. And if that's the order that things happen in, then once again, you get the people who are there to be able to build, you're building lore beats, you're building character growth, you're building these people up. And what's really interesting about that, as I'm thinking about it, is that if the president comes up with the idea for sustainable hunting situations, right? Like sort of releasing animals into the wild after they've had their husbandry period, like the sort of breeding and that sort of thing. Then now suddenly the new president just elected who asked for your help is also not just like, some dude, you know what I mean? They're making real things happen, and that gives reason for the people of this area to not just think it's gonna be the same old same, if that makes sense. As an old person, sometimes you hear people say that all the time, like, oh, well, this person's no different than the last person or whatever. So let's establish with that, before we get into the hunting for tourism sort of thing, that the president is gonna be good for the sustainability of the country as well. And so it just really wraps back in what the impact Game Jam is. The president is now making an impact in what's happening here in your world. All right, so we got some vegetables, producing 10 food. All right, vegetable plants, that's great. Totally fine. Fruits, 20 food in 3 seconds. These look like fruits. That's a bundle of fruits. It's kind of weird, but not like awful. I think since it is a fictional place, maybe just spawn trees, and like you could almost literally paste those fruits onto like the outside of the tree, and that would be fine, I suppose, right? Because it's whatever, it's not a real place. So they grow all these fruits in one tree. Bananas, pears, oranges, apples, they're all growing on the single tree. That's fine. But right now, you know, none of these are literally all tree-based fruits, and they're on the ground. So it's a little bit out of place. It's not a big deal. It does look like fruit, but it's just something to improve it just a little bit. Swamp soil. It's used to support the healthy growth of the plant. Since it is soft, the plant takes root faster. That's why it transfers the energy it would spend to take root to growth. Okay. So this is something that I would work on, the way that this is written. Since it is soft, so we're going to avoid the word it as often as possible. Since swamp soil is soft, the plant takes root faster. This helps. This helps plants save energy they might spend on root growth. Maybe. That's why it transfers the energy. Okay. Since swamp soil is soft, the plant takes root faster. That's why it transfers the energy. This helps plants save the energy it would spend to take root in the soil. It's another alternative way of writing it. Efficiency, plus 10 in 2 seconds. You got a parenthesis around here. Don't really need that. It's probably just a simple typo. Okay. Sparky Snickle asking in the chat, does the Game Maker automatically remove these roofs, or is that a mechanic the dev has set up? That is a mechanic the dev has set up. So what they've got is a proximity-based trigger to the roofs themselves. As we walk in, they are getting manually removed. It's a very nice feature. Devs should definitely do this as often as they possibly can, but it is a trigger-based event, so definitely something to keep in all your games if you can. Yeah, penguin fertilizer. Penguin fertilizer is very rich in nitrogen. Oh, forgive me. Let me get a little water here real quick. It accelerates the maturation of plants. This accelerates the maturation of plants. Increases yield and improves product quality by preventing grain loss. Okay, let's buy that. Penguin fertilizer. New. That's new knowledge. I wouldn't have thought to use penguin fertilizer at all in my stuff. Right, so we've got some stuff going on. And interestingly, I'm not sure how these events trigger. I was going under the assumption that, as I'm just going through forest soil, swamp soil, penguin fertilizer, that all I had to do was just buy it, right? And the people were going to go get it. But now I've got quests on the right, and these quests are telling me to go collect forest soil and swamp soil. So if I'm working with the researcher instead of these simple pop-ups, the researcher makes a little more sense to tell me to go and get this stuff. The researcher needs this product to help improve their ability to research, to help improve these farms and whatnot. I didn't look to notice, but I would, if I was testing this for the game jam, restart just to see if buying the forest soil there started making number go up faster, right? If it improved the amount of food I'm producing per second before completing this quest. If that is the case, if that happens, then I think that would be wrong. I would want to Again, if there's a researcher, this makes more sense, but I would want to talk to them. They say, go get me a forest soil sample and bring it back. And then after we get the sample, we say, the researcher could say, we could add this to the soil for 20 gold and permanently help our farmers. And we've established this. And what does that do? What does that do? When that goes in, the best implementation of forest soil isn't just to make the number go up faster, but to change something about the soil. So what I would probably do here is, if I complete forest soil and I give it to a researcher, we complete the research, we go get the forest soil, we come back, we give it to them. After forest soil is researched, put like little tiny specks of like, and you can make this as a single asset, but put little tiny specks of color variance in the soil now. Gray, whatever, right? And the dark gray specks in the soil is going to be like, once again, like the idea that we were talking about in the marketplace with the people, would be happening if you put the tiny specks of gray in the soil. It is an achievement. It is showing progress. It's showing growth in your game. It's showing that what you do as a player not only impacts the number that we see on the left, but it really makes a change in the game world. And so we add these little tiny small details, specks of gray, dark gray, and I'm saying this intentionally because I'm thinking about the future here, to the soil when we finish forest soil. Then swamp soil, same thing, except we replace all those dark gray specks with a dark green speck. Like, it's a little bit mossy, moldy, right? It's a little sticky, icky, like swamps will be. And now we got swamp soil under all the farm. And then penguin fertilizer, I'm going to operate under the assumption that it's a white color, like most birds produce. And so the little specks change from green to white speck for fertilizer. And that happens, once again, only after we complete the quest. And completing the quest now has a value. And the food number shouldn't be going up faster until after we complete that little quest chain. But what happens there is you do have, you end up increasing the variance for the player. You give them a reward mechanism that's more than just a little whoop noise. And you'll really, once again, you give the player, you give them 30 seconds of conversation and rushing to do the thing. We don't even need necessarily like these arrows to make that work, but we're in the forest now. And okay, collect and earn 100 food. That's pretty cool. You can just pick up food out here in the forest. Like, this whole mechanic, I never knew. I never would have known. There's natural events happening. The wolves are eating the deer. That's cool. I mean, hunt and earn 50 food, collect and earn 100 food. That seems a bit backwards to me. Collecting food off the forest floor is usually going to be like nuts and berries and very small things. I probably wouldn't get very much food by just picking up like a pile of food there. I'm going to get more food from the hunting if we're, we're considering sustainability in mind. You probably would want to have like a couple different animals out here of each variety and pseudo identify those animals. Like, walk up to this one and before it says hunt and earn 50 food, it has a prompt that says this is a male. Hunt and earn 50 food. You walk up to one that, objectively looks exactly the same, whatever. But we walk up to this one that's standing right here, this little cat, and says, this is a female. We can't hunt her, right? Because we're focused on sustainability here. I would add that in the forest. But there's not a, if we change the order of operations a little bit, as we talked about at the beginning, because that quest does pop up, we don't need really these things that say collect and earn 100 food, but they are fun little like thing. I like them. They appeal to my, excuse me, they appeal to my want to go pick up thing with marker on it. So making those just be like collecting to earn an extra 10 food while you're already out here anyway, that's not bad. That's not bad. Swamp soil. Okay, I'm seeing now that they're not food. They're not berries. Huh, interesting. So I was change the text, I think. I think we changed the text on those. The collect and earn 100 food. No. It should say collect and gain 1 research. Because we're not wanting to get food directly. You can get rid of the mechanic that's adding to the food number, because we're going to have racked up a lot of food. Obviously, you can see it in the corner here. We got 53,000 food now. But collecting and gaining 1 research, because we are doing research to improve our soil production. Now it makes sense. So we funded the research. We've helped gain the research. We come back to the scientist to confirm the research. The color changes on ground. And, you know, here's one more thing that I'm thinking. Small, doesn't really matter that much, right? But wheat, corn, vegetables, fruits. That is 4 things. So why did we need 5 forest soil and 5 swamp soil for 4 plots of land? It makes sense on a way if we do have the researcher, but it doesn't make sense in the way that, you know, how many plots do we have? How many plots do we really need fertilizer for? 4 in this case. So we could round that out a little bit more. Maybe the researcher then says, get me 1 soil sample for each plot of the farm. And you can now weave in the researcher's work with the researcher's understanding of the world. The researcher's understanding of how many farmers are tending this, because you, at this point, based on the earlier notes, you've got 1 farmer here, a person native to the area, 1 vegetable farmer, 1 corn farmer, 1 wheat farmer. So the scientist will say, I need 1 soil sample for each farmer. And they can report back to me, quote, right? So the scientist is getting and conducting the research in cooperation with the people, which once again centers back on the sustainability that the Impact Game Jam is all about. So I still got a ton of gold. I'm gonna buy this camel because I'm seeing it. Camel's helping produce food. So much food right now, like way too much food. But is it a good thing? Number go up, not a big deal. I can sell a bunch of food as I'm here. Now I'm rich. So much gold. This country is loaded. Okay. And I've experienced a glitch here. You can see that because the area was restricted previously by these gates, now I can't go into the penguin area despite the fact that I have collect 10 penguin fertilizer as a quest. So have a look at what the triggers are for your events that open the gates, because I shouldn't have a quest and I shouldn't have indicators out here for an area that I can't access. All right. This is an interesting comment made by PandaPops in the chat as well. And I'm going to mention it because you said you were going to watch this later on VOD by Verson. If that's the case as well, I'd even add in something that says using forest soil too much will impact the forests negatively. Yeah? So when we think about sustainability and we think about making sure that we're not just taking from one ecosystem to improve our own, but really just, reinvesting in all of those ecosystems to make sure they continue to operate. You take only the waste product. So you highlight this in there. You say, when I say waste product, I mean thinking about sustainability. And, this does require a little bit of research, but that's sort of what this is all about. The ground layer of the forest, with the leaves that have fallen down and the debris and all the nonsense, is the home for the little critters, the creatures, the creepy crawly stuff. It's literally, that is a food supply for the middle-sized stuff, like the snakes and the birds, right? And so you want to highlight that you want to take just a little soil or something like that, just a little bit to do the research, not too much, and have the researcher understand that, yeah, we can use some of this to help this soil. We don't need to use all forest soil to make this regular soil work. We can till it up. We can figure out what is good about the forest soil using the science to, add a healthy and sustainable chemical to the soil. Think about the groundwater as a result of fertilizing this soil. How does that change? Stuff like that. It's small stuff, but add a narrative beat that shows that now we care also about the forest that we're taking from, while we also care about the food that we're growing here and making the country work better. Because the foods, presumably the fruits that we see here, would have been grown in that forest nearby. But now we're just taking it to a farming level. So using that soil could be good for it, but obviously there could be something better. So think about the sustainability at the same time, inside and outside. I think that's a really good point. But anyway, we know that door is locked, so I'm going to try to solve that problem before we continue on here. Got messages. I'm going to interact. Marcus Jr. Predators are attacking domestic animals. You lost 50% of your food stock. Get the rifle, protect the farm. Okay. So these messages, you might change the word messages to quests. Because, as it is, they're definitely like quests. I gotta use the rifle to protect the farm. Instead of using the rifle to do a shooty shoot. Predators are attacking domestic animals. Who's the predator? Is it this guy? This guy right here? That is one of them. Another one. Okay. So we use... Okay. Narratively, let's make this make sense real quick. Predators are attacking domestic animals. You lost 100 for to protect the farm. So I don't know if this is the case where you're from, but this is the case where I'm from. America has changed quite a bit in the last 300 years, but I'm currently living on land that was previously owned by the Salish Native American tribe. And with that, some of their traditions and values still sort of persist in the culture here, including thinking about how we can use the predator to its fullest as well. Because yes, there is the aspect that these predators are negatively impacting your ecosystem. But a great example of how the predators are positive towards the ecosystem is that in national parks here in America, wolves. I'm seeing a wolf right here. This little buddy right here. Wolves were pushed out for a while, right? Because they were negatively impacting farming. They were negatively impacting, or it was perceived to be that they were negatively impacting certain parts of the ecosystem. But recently, like within the last 25 or 30 years, wolves are reintroduced into these national parks. And as a result, the entire ecosystem got a significant boost by the wolf being there, because the wolf, yes, would eat the deer, but the scraps that get left behind incentivize different creatures to come back to these spaces. And those creatures, fertilized the land, the ground differently, specifically around like rivers. New plants were regrowing that weren't there in the area. And all of this is a cascading series of events. So when we come in here and we think about the main theme of sustainability, yes, we need to hunt or cull the predators that are creating an imbalance in the ecosystem. But with each one of these that we kill, we might have a prompt that comes up above it of like, I can use this hide to do this. We can feed these parts to the pigs, right? Like, think about how these predators aren't just an inconvenience, but they contribute to the overall value of the ecosystem as well. And yeah, as I mentioned before, it's also good to have certain rules about what is sustainable and what is unsustainable. So the first time that we came in here, there's just a couple of these wildcats hunting and earn 50 food. We know that we needed to have, or we should really have, sustainability in mind when we hunt to earn the 50 food. So we've got the females that we don't kill. It's a bit ironic because in cats, the females are the hunters for the most part, and the males are pretty lazy. And so when you get this quest, literally double or triple the number of cats that are on the map. And you did that inherently because there's really only like 2 cats here, right? But make it like a crazy amount where you're like, whoa, this is a lot of cats in this area specifically. And then another fun thing that you could do is, so we've got 2 deer here. If we have 2 cats here, and then you do the cat quest, and all of a sudden we have, let's take the deer out. I know this is hunt and earn 10 food, but let's take the deer out. Make it so this deer isn't even huntable, right? And then when this quest pops up to come get rid of the predators, there's 2 cats here instead of the deer. And those are the cats we have to cull. And once we cull those cats and we talk about what their value is to the ecosystem and how we can use them, once the 2 cats die, another deer spawns right here. Boop. And then you can start to, once again, this just triggers the little thing for the player of the trophy, right? The achievement, the progress that they make, the direct impact that the player is making towards a positive and more sustainable ecosystem, because we would all of a sudden have 2 cats and 2 deer, and they're all in sight, and the player gets that, I did it feeling. Good job. All right. I still have the main quest of hunting wild animals, so I should probably do that. Oop. Wait, am I gonna use the rifle? Oop. Oop. Hope that works. Oop. Clear. This isn't sustainable at all. I've cleared every animal off the map. Oop. Oop. Yeah. So once again, this is going to kind of lend back to what I was mentioning before about being sustainable in this forest. Because there are only the one type of animal and you haven't made any variance in your art, this would be kind of hard to convey. But the establishment that the male of them may be acceptable and the female has to stay there. When we come in to complete that quest, I just deleted the ecosystem over here. and that is not sustainable. So I would change that just a little bit to, to help this out. There's literally no wild cats left. And without the wild cats, if you look at the story about, I think it's Yosemite National Park in America, and the wolves being reintroduced there, that'll tell you, I think, all you need to know about, we can't delete all the wild cats from the game. They have to stay to keep in with the theme. Alright, so I did the thing. Fishing! The new president changed the law on fishing. Large animals such as sharks can now be hunted. Let's show who is the king of the oceans. Alright. Catch some fish 10 times. And now this opened up. Okay. So the order of operations. The 10 penguin fertilizer. I was able to get that way early. This fence wasn't open. Honestly, there's not really a need to even have the gates at all, except that the rifle situation, if all those creatures are there, and if you make the creatures be spawned by these quests, then you don't need the fence at all. You really don't. If you make the creatures there the whole time, having the rifle does pose that problem where you need the fences. But once again, if you make it so the creatures spawn based on these quest message triggers, then yeah, you don't need those fences. And that would allow you to avoid the issue of, I need to do penguin fertilizer research. So let's go out here and get that fertilizer. Need 10 penguin fertilizer. Once again, this is sort of odd. The other one needed 5. Why this needs 10? Not really sure. Especially as we're getting sort of further in the game and we understand the mechanics. Grabbing more food later makes the game a little bit more monotonous, a little more boring, I guess, for those collection quests. 10 really isn't a bad number, but it's just a bit odd to me that this is more food or more fertilizer than, previous. Once again, it doesn't need to give me extra food when I pick it up because the food is coming in, it's ticking every second, and I already don't need this much money. Like, I have way too much gold. I don't need to use it to buy anything or do anything. More resources here. Collect more resources. What resources? What? Just anything? Fishing. Wait for the fish. Okay. Catch nothing. What? Catch a normal fish. Okay. Catch shark. Alright. So, something that I'm seeing here, and I don't know if you could fix this or not, but I'd look into it. When I wait for the fish, it says 0 out of 10 on that pop-up. I'm pretty sure that you're not going to be able to change that, but wait for the fish. Maybe change that to you start fishing. Yeah, because wait for the fish, and I see a little spinny thing in there. For some reason, my brain wants there to be that like icon in there, one of these, where I have to do a dance to make that happen or whatever. The penguin shuffle, bro. The penguin shuffle. This is a handmade character, isn't it? So I actually can't do the dance. But. So, yeah, you want to definitely focus on the action. What is the player doing during this period? Not just wait for the fish. Because wait for the fish is a little bit like me telling you, the gamer, wait for the fish, instead of you start fishing, and then you'll see the catch small fish. And because we're getting the prompts there. Question comes in from Roxy Miguel on twitch.tv saying, what do you focus on when talking about sustainability? I mean, sustainability to save the real world type sustainability, according to environmental activists, or sustainability and economic mechanics of the game? Sustainability to make the player survive, sustainability to preserve the world that has been created. Okay, so this is a me answer because it's the best that I can do for you in this case. When I look at sustainability, I'm looking less at like what I would objectively call real sustainability, and more so at what is the intention of the game jam. So when I look at the Impact Game Jam, and I've got it up here on the screen here, this is a collaboration between the Sandbox and a group called Radical Exchange. Radical Exchange is a movement that seeks to rethink economic and political systems for the digital age. They believe that current technologies, driven by capitalism, exacerbate inequality. Radical Exchange proposes new methods of cooperation and collective decision-making. They use research and development to create new tools such as quadratic voting, common ownership, and large-scale citizen participation. Yeah? So, written inside the Sandbox Game Jam event for the Impact Game Jam, it tells you what this game jam is about by telling you who the partner is on that game jam. And with that knowledge, you can take that and add it into your game a little bit. So if we know, they sort of did this in this game, Roxy. At the beginning of this game, the country had collapsed. This fictional country had collapsed because it was just poorly managed by its government officials, its people, you know. People got a little bit too greedy and whatever, right? That's not sustainable economically. Then, if we focus on what Radical Exchange might be doing, research and development, so you want to focus on making the people of this country good at research and development, which is why I talked a little bit earlier about let's not talk to a sign, but let's talk to a scientist that looks like they're from here. And in doing that, you're helping the sustainability of its people, and not necessarily like environmental sustainability, but the focus is sustainability. So if we think about not just one of the things that you mentioned, but all of the things that you mentioned, you just check every single box in my head of, wow, they really considered what the impacts are positively and negatively to doing all of the things. And that helps when we think about sustainability, because, you know, if we look outside of like our individual day today, sustainability means different things. Change the time scale, and sustainability really means different things. And I think that's part of your question, because, you know, an environmental activist might say it's not sustainable to use oil because of its ecological impacts, right? But an economic activist might say it's not sustainable to use oil because it's a limited resource. And if we can do all the same things while having an unlimited supply of energy production, right, that comes from use of oil, then that's more sustainable economically, because we don't have to worry about a supply and demand fluctuation. You get a stable supply of the energy production. And so, you know, this is all about, I think, if you talk about narratively, this is about the sustainability first, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like perfect or correct or whatever from an objective standpoint. It doesn't have to be like, if you're hearing this and thinking like, well, that's a really hippie thing to think, or, you know, whatever the terminology may be, then once again, that doesn't necessarily have to be your direction. You could come at it from a hunter's perspective, yeah? And a hunter is concerned about the ecology of the forest, because without that, next year when the hunter comes, and I'm thinking of this from an American perspective. In America, we have to buy like tags to say I can get X number of animal during each hunting season, like 2 deer, whatever. Where I live, it's very common to go deer hunting. And so a hunter is thinking about the sustainability of that ecosystem. If a hunter goes into a forest and sees that the river, that the deer, they would, if deer commonly go to this river that hunter wants to go to, but the river's all gross now, it's full of whatever, the hunter suddenly becomes ecologically aware, right? Something that they might not have thought. Maybe they legitimately like throw a burger wrapper out their window on the way there, and then they get there and they see some gross stuff in the river and realize like, well, the deer's not going to drink from this now because it's full of whatever. And so you can add in sustainability without necessarily like making it any type of like a political stance or a statement. Take it from your perspective. Your perspective is important. And just as I mentioned way earlier on, when I, as an American person, see farming camel, I want to see why we farm camel. Show me your perspective. Show me your unique position on this. And that's going to do just as well when it comes to like, how do we complete the impact game jam? As anything else. But just show me that there is thought in that narrative and you're going to do well. So we got all the fish that we needed. And, we mentioned that it was shark before, but while fishing, we caught shark only a couple of times, which is fine. Makes sense. But, we got different values of food when we caught the fish. We did get food directly. I think this is one of those cases, certainly, where you do, you want to get the food number because we are fishing. But we want to, once again, I think you want to think about the sustainability in the fishing a little bit. There are a lot of fish here. That's really good. This person popping up and saying, wow, there are a lot of fish here. That's great. Now, nearby, put another scientist here with like a little clipboard, and they're observing the space, and they're saying something small like a hatchery, which is for fish. My great aunt owns a hatchery up the way, and she grows trout there, giant pools. It just looks like big swimming pools with little tiny fish in them. And once they get like this big, they go out into the river. So the scientists could be making notes about a hatchery and saying like, we need to feed 10,000 people and they eat fish a day. And that's the whole thing, right? That's the whole narrative bubble that pops up over their head. It's not a conversation you have. It's just a world builder. Because you have a scientist here, they're doing the research of how do we build this sustainably? How do we eat this sustainably and manage this sustainably? Because if you don't, there's not fish there in, 20, 30 years. So it's going to matter to these people in this story, in this narrative. It's going to matter that this is still working, that this country is still prospering after one generation. You don't want it to just do all this work and then have it collapse. That's the point of what all the narrative beats in the story have told us so far. Shark fins and teeth fetch good prices at the market. You can hunt a few and earn an extra 500 gold. Okay. Objectively, shark fins are very popular in certain regions of the world. They sell for quite a lot. I'm big on science, kind of a nerd. Okay. Shark fins, specifically shark fin soup, is an unsustainable practice in fishing. where most of the shark is wasted because everyone wants the shark fin. So, if we're just taking this quest, when we get here to this point, this hunt 3 sharks, we want to trigger a conversation here about what can we do with the other part of the shark? Why are we just harvesting them for teeth and fins? Understand, yes, that those are sellable, but if we just look at, let's assume I have 1/10 of the food that I've produced so far, because I have been doing a lot of talking. And people obviously aren't going to be playing this for an hour and a half if they played it naturally. They probably played it for 20 minutes maybe now. Still, you got way too much food already. Your player has lots of food, so we don't need 500 food. We need to, fish up the shark for another reason, possibly. Or understand, how do we use all these parts? The fats on the sharks can be broken down into possibly, like whales, I think we use their fats for perfumes. And, I can't remember exactly. But think about, what can we do with the parts? Not just point out the fins can be sold and the teeth can be sold, because that's sort of really prototypical. Yeah, those sell for a lot of money, but at this point in the game, the gold isn't a need. I don't need more money. I don't need more food. They've started to figure that out. So now it starts narratively to make less sense to be super concerned about a couple of dollars. And now narratively it starts to make sense to, like, we want to fish them up because maybe they're interrupting something in the ecosystem, or that there's way too many sharks out there and there's not enough tuna fish or whatever, whatever their prey may be. I think tuna is a little bit too big, but whatever. The salmon in the ocean is reduced. We want to get salmon, so we must fish for shark. And on the way, we can get shark fin and we can get teeth. That sort of thing, So now, this also is doing a thing in the gameplay loop that I'm not sure that I like, but I guess I could deal with. And that is, I'm fishing off of this dock, and it's a random chance that I'm going to catch shark. So, maybe instead of fishing off of the dock, you could have 2 fishing mechanics. One of them is off of this boat. Got a tuna fish, that's giving lots of food. If I'm gonna catch shark, we got rods off the back of the boat. I can't really go on it, but fishing for a shark would definitely happen out on the ocean. Obviously, understanding the technical limitation, it's small land. Have this fish catch small fish or fail. Have this one catch tuna fish or fail. Have this one that has the rod pointed off the side of the boat off into the ocean catch shark or fail. Something like that. Because otherwise your player could literally be standing here like this. I've got normal fish, tuna fish, nothing, or shark. So on average, I'm going to have to fish 12 times if it was a true RNG random mechanic. But because this is probably a moving object that triggers based off of, is it in front of the shark calculator, I assume, right? Logically buried somewhere. Because I understand sort of how you're designing these logics. It's now not even random. It's literally timer based, but I don't know how fast this thing moves from spot to spot. So your player could literally be standing here for 10 minutes just pressing this button to possibly catch these 3 sharks. And so you want to avoid that a little bit. If you make each rod catch or don't catch with different stuff, then it'll clean up a little bit. Huh. All right. Trying to just read in the chat here as we go. We're getting sort of close to the end of this particular show. But if you want to stick with us here at Sandbox.game, at the end of the GMAE show, PandaPops is going to be back with some other folks. We're going to be doing just a fun game session here on the show in just a couple minutes. So yeah, look forward to that. I'd like to be here for it, and I might show up if we're still going in a little while, but I got to go pick up my wife, who has come back from an extended education summit for the kids of her local school. 8 p.m. UTC, so in an hour. Thank you, Panda. Appreciate it. So an hour from the end of this show. Oh, that kind of makes me feel good. Not gonna lie, Panda, because it's possible I could just pop in, if that's cool. If I could be a pro gamer with you. Just hang out. Depends on how many. Oh, of course, thank you. Awesome. Cool. We'll be hanging out. But, yeah, we'll see how many crazy stories Brittany has, my wife. One of the things that, while she was up there chaperoning for these kids, they're in 6th grade, which is whatever, like year 8 for them. It's weird, right? Anyway, she's up there with the students. One of the horror stories that she's already told me is that one of these kids went into the restroom and literally threw like bars of soap down the toilet so that it wouldn't flush for some reason. No idea why. Had to get removed from the camp. It was supposed to be like a 4.5-day camp for them. Pretty crazy. All right, where do penguins go? There's a huge decline in the penguin population. Although scientists have not yet found the reason, they emphasize that these creatures will face extinction if they are not protected. The number of penguins, which was 2.5 million, has increased rapidly in the last 3 years and dropped to 368,000. Okay, got some other indicators here. Forest. The president doesn't think about the con. Scientists announced that many animal species are facing extinction due to uncontrolled hunting and people killing predators to protect their farms. The president is destroying the country while fixing the economy. So you did highlight that a little bit. That's interesting. Swamp. Swamp soil cannot be found. After the law allowing swamp soil, which was formed over hundreds of years to be used and sold in agriculture, was approved by the president, big companies excavated even the smallest swamp in the country and left behind damage that was very difficult to repair. The extent of the damage they caused to the ecosystem cannot be calculated. Economists say that inflation will increase across the country in the near future. So we've done these things to try to help, but we took from the land and didn't leave anything behind to allow that sustainability, that continued growth to do it. And above saying, LMAO, kids be wild. Yeah, it is wild. It doesn't make any sense, but it was funny because she brought this up to me and I said, yeah, that makes complete sense that happened. Because of course, if that kid is, unfortunately, as a lot of kids are these days, getting like the predominant amount of their entertainment like indoors on their phone or whatever, yeah, then you say, hey, go be of your own devices. And how? What do? And so they're just doing something like, oh, this is different, and you end up doing stupid stuff, wild stuff. There are no more resources around. We consume more than is created. It was as if all living things suddenly disappeared. Nature is turning its back on us. Should have predicted this. The decision made by the president caused everyone to attack resources uncontrollably. Since the economy is in a good state right now, no one can say anything to the president. That's why we must keep our income balanced. We have to stop cattle because we do not have enough resources. If we want this peace to continue, we must find out what happened to nature and recover our resources. Let's start with the penguins first. We know that their fertilizers are very valuable. Maybe there are other effects that we don't know about. Now bring me some penguin fertilizer and eggs. So we're doing this again. Getting penguin fertilizer 2 different times. And we could have probably covered that with when we got them before. Hopefully, eggs and fertilizer to Bonkus. These are fertilizer, new fertilizer, something hidden around it. Now I gotta pick it up manually. This is different. So the way that this works has been different than every other kind of collection you've done so far. And I've got to wrap here real quick, but Roxy, Byverson, they submitted this. We're gonna play through the rest of this on Monday, I think. Maybe later today at the Council Tech over on twitch.tv. If you're not already following, go follow. You'll see me over there as well. We do that a couple days a week on that channel. So I'm going to continue to play this, and I might do it later this evening, considering the time crunch. But right now I got to wrap because I only had a 2-hour block to run this here, and another show's coming up right now, really soon anyway. Nonetheless, I'm noticing I'm picking this up, and as I pick it up, I've got to carry it now. It's the only time that's ever happened in the game. I would change that. Change it so that you could pick up this object and it counts as a trigger towards the Research 1 event. And the same thing with the egg. Even though they look different, you could still do that. Just make the thing that you actually pick be an invisible asset that triggers this twice, the same invisible asset. And then it causes a void effect that destroys this. This little doggo has collision turned on and just shoved my character around. Moving NPCs should probably not have collision on. It's cute though. It's a cute one. Anyway, chat. Let's get a wrap up the GMAE show. Appreciate you hanging out with me here today by Verson with this game. I say best of luck and thank you for submitting to the GMAE show. There was another submission, as I mentioned, that was for the Impact Game Jam. This was submitted by a user that I think I noticed was over on YouTube. Black Rabbit Maze had submitted this. So if you are watching still, Black Rabbit Maze, I will try to play through your game or experience. And let me have a look here. This is your first game that you ever made. So good to know. I've got an email for you. So what I will do for you, because it is the last chance that we have here on the official channel, I'm going to play through your gamer experience privately, and I'm going to send you notes to your email. And I'll do that either over, I think it's probably going to be tomorrow. But I'll send you an email after I've played through your game, and I'll try to include some screenshots as I can, as if I was doing a very traditional game test. And we'll get those back to you because once again, just have a limited amount of time here on the show, but I definitely want to make sure that you get some feedback for that, as I saw your response came in. I think it was yesterday, maybe today, but I'm going to get that one tested. And if not, or if you're okay with it, we could also do it live here on the Monday show at the Council Tech. But anyway, chat, I'm going to wrap things up here because it is 12:03 and I'm running overtime. I don't want to make Panda disappointed in me, you know what I mean? Want to meet expectations here, chat. So, with that, I say to you, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thanks for hanging out with me here today. And you have yourself a lovely rest of your time. Whatever your day is. Have a good one.